In this session, we're going to take a look at contact management settings. So when we get into setting up contacts and companies in videos to come, one of the things that you can do is use filtering to filter by, maybe what type of company it is. So I can see my suppliers or subcontractors or things of that nature and not have to necessarily look at a whole entire list. Maybe when we start talking about tracking insurance and what types of insurances, and when we start setting up contacts and so forth, some contact titles and some of those type of things. So I want to kind of take a look at how to go in and set up those preliminary things there. It doesn't necessarily have to be preliminary. You can always come back and add it after the fact, come back and code your contacts or companies to those, different levels depending on what you got set up and so forth. Right now, I'm just in my main menu of contact management where I see a list of all my active companies and things of that nature. I'm going to go up to the settings tab, the little gear at the top, so that way I can get into the settings. And under feature and under contact management is where these settings come into play. So company types, this is what is currently set up in my environment. Yours will differ. So company types I would look at being somewhat generic, kind of like what you see here. So that way I could tell, a customer from an architect, from an owner, things of that nature. Now, in my database, if I go down farther, there's a few that I would not recommend doing here where they've kind of went into sub and different types of sub. That my types, I don't want to get into like what trades they do yet. There'll be another topic that I'll kind of get into at the end of this recording where we'll talk about coding these to different types of cost codes and things like that. So when I'm doing invitation to bids or requests for price proposals and things like that, I can use that to filter to go find, hey, I want to find the electrical contractors or masonry contractors and those type of things. But in here, I probably wouldn't do the detail. I'm probably looking more for like a subcontractor and suppliers and, employees or other things of that nature of what these different types would be. More on the very generic level. With that being said, you can search through any of these lists. So that way, if I did want to go through there and see, what have they got in there for customer, you'll notice as I start to type, it'll basically do a filter and can filter down that list to make it a little bit easier to figure out what I've got in there, what I don't have in there yet. I can delete them. The only stipulation to deleting is I cannot be on any companies and things like that. So that's true with all of them, that if you have any type of transaction or any type of a company that is still associated with that, you won't be able to delete it. If you need to modify one, you can just hit the edit button and basically it just opens up the grid. So it's very easy to come back in here and, change the description or adjust them as need be. Once I get done making whatever changes, I can hit save to accept it. In my case, I'm going to hit cancel here. And this is also where I could hit add to create just a new one to the list also. So as I'm going through there, it just comes up with a description. So that way I can go ahead and say, whatever it's going to be. And there again, if I go off to delete here, I'm going to just take that one back out. And that's basically what it takes to look for adding them or taking them out. So these were the different company types. The next type of filtering thing that can also be put on a contact is what type of insurance. So when you get into tracking automobile liability or work comp, insurances and when things expire and so forth on their different types of insurance, this is where you can go in and set up what those different types are going to be. And that way you can then enter in the different information as far as when they expire or what the amount of the insurance policy is for and some of those type of things, maybe even the agent that's associated with it. And then the last part in here is the contact title. So when we start setting up contacts, what are the different titles that I want to be available? There again, maybe I want to go off and do some sort of a report or a form that can pull up all the contacts that are flagged as an estimator or a CEO or things of that nature. So it's just basically trying to standardize titles to keep people spelling them consistently and being able to use them for filtering and so forth. And exact same user interface as far as editing existing ones or adding new ones or searching to see if what you're looking for is in the list, deleting. So all the exact same, look and feel as the other two types that we looked at there. Now, one thing that I'm going to jump ship here a little bit and also kind of just take a real quick flyby is I said earlier that don't worry about these company types trying to get too crazy into what type of trade they do and so forth. And the reason why I mentioned that is there is also something in my company settings called cost codes. So when we're setting up contacts, you can actually set up what type of company they are. Oh, they're a sub or supplier or owner or whatever different types you'd set up. But you also get the opportunity to set up something called cost codes associated with that company also. So in this case here, I've already got preloaded, and there'll be another video at a later time that'll kind of show how to create these lists and things like that. But basically I can have different lists out there. So as I go through and I'm setting up different companies, I could say, okay, this is somebody that deals with equipment, or this is somebody that deals with electrical work, or things of that nature, and get my classifications on there. So that's why I said that a lot of the time the company type I want to keep somewhat generic, because I can get as detailed as I want when we start talking about cost codes. Now, the other thing with these cost codes though is you can actually have multiple cost code lists, just like you see here. So I've got like a, CSI 2016 list, but I also have my Sage Intacct cost codes. So these are actually the cost codes that I've got set up in my Sage Intacct. So if I do want to keep them as consistent with my cost codes, that's plausible also. So some clients I work with, they code their different subs and suppliers and things like that with similar coding as they use in their, accounting system or job costs and so forth. But the cool thing is it's also very easy to have, just a complete standard list of, hey, here's my contractor CSI codes, and have some sort of a list that may or may not match up with what we use in our job cost side or other places. So that's why I kind of want to mention that, because that's probably one of the main things I see. Some people get so many different types in there that's not really a good place for it in my mind, that these lists I think are better when we start setting that up. And that concludes the contact management setup.